How long, O Lord, will you forget us forever? How long will you hide your face from us? How long must we bear pain in our soul and have sorrow in our heart all day long? How long shall our enemy be exalted over us? The words of Psalm 13 have echoed in my spirit since I heard of the terrorist attack within the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh on Saturday morning. How long, oh God? How many times is this going to happen? How do we find ourselves at this place of utter madness and hatred inside the walls of a sanctuary in our country again? After the massacre at Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston, South Carolina, just 3 years ago, with another man so filled with rage that he purposefully entered a safe spiritual space and murdered African Americans because of who God created them to be. There aren't enough psalms of lament to fill our ever-growing experiences of terrorism to our bodies, our minds, our souls, our grocery store, our schools, our theaters, our homes, our businesses, our nightclubs, our concert venues, and our sanctuaries. And as I hear the refrain from the shooting's coward with a gun, who echoed words I naively thought had been buried in the 20th century, all Jews must die. I shake my fists at the heavens, I clench my teeth, and I demand from God, how long, O God? How long must we bear pain in our collective soul? How long shall our enemy be exalted over us? These are the opening words of the sermon that I wrote and delivered on Sunday to First Congregational Church in Wydown in St. Louis, Missouri, to try to put some words and expressions to this returned place that we continue to come to. There is no logic, there is no sense, and yet you and I are at a place of both responsibility and privilege as faith communities and spiritual leaders in our local communities to be that bridge from the hatred that we are experiencing more often than we should ever imagine. That in the span of 1 week, we can have a shooter in Kentucky who cowardly shoots and kills 2 unarmed African Americans in a Kroger grocery store, to a coward who creates bombs and mails them to select people, including our former presidents and their families, to the first massacre and terrorist attack on a Jewish synagogue in the United States in 1 week. And it feels and seems like we are on edge. Because We are that bridge between the hatred and the venom that is out there and that is in our communities, in our urban communities, in our suburban communities, in our rural communities, with the people that our children go to school with the people that we go to football games with. We live, and our neighbors and our family, with these people who are so filled with fear that all they know is to hate in a violent capacity. But that's not all of who we are. And there are people who are so afraid because they have been the targets in the past week and month and year. And they are yearning for a sense of comfort, hope, peace, love. And here we are, as the people created in God's image who seek to follow the ways of Jesus, our rabbi and our spiritual leader, who made sure that all were included, who stood in the way when someone was violently throwing rocks at a woman. We are that bridge. And in this moment when even and especially there are tears in our eyes and our minds and our souls, you and I, the local churches and the members and the ministers of the Missouri Mid-South Conference, must collectively come together and be that bridge between the most vile, evil parts of our society and the most vulnerable. It is going to take courage. Never in my wildest imagination did I think that a conference ministry theme of building courageous relationships would be lived out in this kind of capacity, because indeed, the courage that it is going to take us to be that bridge is about relationships. Sister Joan Chittister, in her book, Between the Dark and the Daylight, Embracing the Contradictions of Life, describes the kind of courage that I believe you and I and all of our neighbors must embody. She describes it as life-giving courage. She writes, quote, "Life-giving courage is the courage that refuses to become what it hates, and at the same time refuses to be passive in the face of evil." End quote. This, my friends, is what that bridge of courage looks like in this moment when our very nation is raw and fragile and afraid. We must embody life-giving courage, the kind of courage that refuses to be passive in the face of evil, which means that wherever we live, whether it is in Bonne Terre, Missouri, Little Rock, Arkansas, Kansas City, Missouri, Memphis, Tennessee, you and I must find those who are being targeted, call them, write them, and say, "I am with you, I support you, I stand with you as an ally. If you need anything, I am here." It is active. Life-giving courage is active in this moment. And It refuses to be passive in the face of what is, for us, a very evil moment in our nation's history. Not the first, unfortunately, but a very definitive evil moment. But in those moments, when we are that bridge of life-giving courage, in those moments when we are active and we are standing shoulder to shoulder, sometimes in front of the very people who are the targets because of who God created them to be, remember the first part of what Sister Chittister says. Life-giving courage refuses to become what it hates. Don't become the evil and the hatred of those who are violently living it out at this moment. Instead, as the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. taught and embodied, let us choose love. Let us set aside all of the stuff that is petty and worthless, and let us actively stand with those who currently are being targeted because of who God created them to be. You may say to yourself, I live in rural Missouri. There aren't any Jewish synagogues here. And I would say, but there are Jewish neighbors, and there are Muslim neighbors. And even if you don't know them right now, if you send the message in whatever capacity you are able to, whether it is in your quilting group, whether it is in your Monday morning coffee at McDonald's group, whether it is in your Kiwanis Club group, if you send the message that you will not tolerate that kind of hatred and violence, you are also sending the message to the most vulnerable among us right now that you are safe and that you not only see all, but that you will stand with all and that you will love all. How long, O Lord? For as long as we have breath, this day and forevermore. Amen.